Welcome back to Tomb Raider Tuesday, lovelies. Can I make this jump? Yeah, you bastard. I normally embarrass myself and smack into the wall like a bird off a window. Here we are, in the second level of the Egyptian campaign, Obelisk of Khamoon. Awesome level, probably my favourite of the entire game, even if it does start off with a fair bit of block pull and pushery. Now, the main objective of this level is to gather 4 different artifacts, or rather lower the bridges to 4 different artifacts because they're all gathered around the same place, the titular obelisk. And grab the medipack here, hopefully the crocodile doesn't rip my face off. No, he's not interested, is he? I mean, he is, but as we've covered so many times already in this playthrough, the stupid bastards are just very bad at swimming. Which is unfortunate, because if you're a crocodile, that's most of your game plan, isn't it? Kill him quick, before he runs off round the edges and we have to wallop another 2 minutes on top of our runtime chasing him all over the bloody place. Oh my kingdom for the harpoon gun. Comparatively speaking, there's a lot about Tomb Raider 2 that I feel is inferior to this first installment, but that harpoon gun, not having to piss about, getting in and out of the water to lure whatever you want to kill to the surface, oh, the blessed memory of it. That's another sapphire key there, which I still haven't managed to spell properly. Show it some respect, core design. Terrible mothers name their children that. Apologies to anyone watching that is named Sapphire. I'll apologise because I'm sure your parents haven't. It's a good name, I'm sure, but, you know, for a cat or something. For a cat belonging to somebody who maybe takes cats a bit too seriously. Down the slide we go. Oh, shit. Help. Forgot about you. It's alright, no damage done. He'd much rather stand around roaring like an idiot. Still, let's kill him from up here. Just to be sure. You know, King John of England kept leopards in the Tower of London. These are black leopards, by the way. I'm not just spouting random bullshit today. They weren't accused of treason or anything. It was just an attempt to domesticate them. Or maybe to provide some entertaining opposition for him whenever he turned into a werewolf, which is one of the more persistent legends of British royalty. For a long time, until his tomb was exhumed at the turn of the 1800s, rumours persisted that the monks at Worcester Cathedral, where he was buried, had become so terrified by the growling and wailing from his gravesite that they secretly dug him up and reburied him away from consecrated ground, the idea being that he was so cursed by his lycanthropy that he couldn't rest. But then they opened the tomb and he was still in there, until they took his teeth and his thumb to display at the British Library last year. Fucking ghouls, man. But King John's subjects didn't just call him a werewolf out of spite, and they concocted an awesome tale that took place in Ireland, where John toured before he was king, and merely Lord of Ireland, a title bestowed upon him by his father when he was 10 years old. John was only recently in favour with his dad, Henry II, after 3 of his brothers and his own mother led a failed rebellion against him, but when he made his first visit across the Irish Sea 8 years later, he still managed to piss everybody off about as much as he would his own people when he was king. John and his party toured an area of Ireland known as Osiris, which today is made up mostly of County Kilkenny, where John proceeded to shag around like his dick was due to fall off the day he came back. Now, by all accounts, John wasn't against a romantic rendezvous with a local peasant girl, but his favourite type of lady were the Osiris noblemen's wives, which is significant because legend had it that all the kings of Osiris were descended from Lynech Faelad, a mighty warrior who also happened to be a werewolf. So in his quest to do the dirty with any woman attached to the Osirian bloodline, the theory was that John may have gotten himself a love bite or two which resulted in his feral blood curse. Of course, history isn't swimming in what you'd call reliable accounts of this, mainly because King John had a reputation for being a massive cock, with the royal privilege of executing anybody that pissed him off, but curiously, when he was buried in Worcester Cathedral, he was laid to rest at the altar of St. Wulfstan, or Wolf Stone in Old English. These damn panthers! Trigger! Chase me, you fucking... It's not having it. This game's so 50-50 sometimes on whether something will happen or not. Whoa, oh, fuck me. Alright, we'll do this in the tunnel then, shall we? That's fine, that works. Ah, he took a lump out of me. Dirty little bastard. There's kind of a weird jumble of ancient Egyptian art on the walls here. Up on the top row you can see a number of examples of a cartouche, typified by the oval surrounding the hieroglyphs. And that usually indicated the name inside is that of royalty, but they've taken some quite obvious creative liberties with that, and repeated the same names in multiples of 3 right the way across the room, which would be the ancient Egyptian equivalent of a mental patient writing gibberish on the walls of his padded cell with his own shit. Let's leave this troubling place and head up to the small alcove up the top here, which has the much more traditionally reassuring image of the lady in the reeds. There we are. Much better. There's another one of these damn cat mummies creeping around up here, but I've found if you stick to the back wall and go straight to the corner, he won't bother you. Like the Blair Witch, really. Of course, I want 100% kill, so I'm going to shoot him dead anyway, but there we go. That worked out nicely. Nothing too combat intensive in this stage, really. The Panthers were the worst of it. Here's a switch to the first bridge we need to drop, and out here is the Obelisk of Khamoon. Now you can see the others. We need to lower all the way around the edges there with their corresponding artifacts, but for now, we take the Eye of Horus and drop all the way down to the bottom. There's some ammo hiding in the drink down here, and we would be the most foolish of fools to even consider turning it down. Well, we got Horus's eyeball now, so it'd be somewhat impolite of me not to give you a little rundown on the guy, I guess. Horus, falcon-headed patron god of the sky, battle, and the hunt, holds a special place in Egyptian religious belief, as each pharaoh was regarded to be the flesh incarnation of Horus himself. Horus also has the most amazing origin story ever, that begins with Osiris, lord of the dead, being murdered and brutally dismembered by his power-hungry brother, Set. Of course, in ancient mythology, if somebody takes the time to chop you into 14 different pieces, then that's not all they're going to do here. So Set scooped up all the bits of his brother and chucked them in the Nile, which by different accounts were then either devoured by a catfish or a big crab. In some later versions of the story, Set tricks Osiris into climbing into a lead coffin before chucking him in the Nile, but either way, when Osiris' wife Isis found out about this, she wasn't best pleased, so she used a magic spell to bring him back to life. Now, although Isis was happy that her husband was back on his feet, she couldn't help but notice that his dick was missing. Yeah, I guess they managed to get all the rest of him out of the catfish, but not the dick. You'll never get your cock back from a catfish, so don't even try it. I'm just going to pause the tale briefly here. If you hang down above this ramp, you can bait out a pair of cat mummies so you don't have to mess about with them face to face later on. Just drop down this way, and hopefully they'll have caught my scent in their dirty little nostrils. Come on, woman. There we are. So, Isis wanted that sweet zombie loving back in her life as soon as possible, so she made a golden cock for Osiris to get her pregnant with. I'm not making this up. Even my imagination is not that good. So, they get it on, and boyfriend's now rocking a solid gold naughty tap to boot. Isis gets pregnant, at which point she runs off into the marshlands to hide from Set. Set turns up again, finds Osiris considerably less dead and more shiny cock than he left him before, kills him again, and goes off on his merry way. And 9 months later, or whatever the gestation cycle is for Egyptian gods, out pops Horus, the boy with the golden-dicked corpse for a daddy. Awesome. But why would the tale end there? Why indeed? Because as Horus got older, he came to resent Set murdering his father twice, and spent many a hilarious year battling him for the right to rule Egypt. Now, there are lots of heartwarming shenanigans to recount between these two banter merchants, but I'll let you in on what is by far my favourite one of all. Now, I'm not gonna lie, this one is pretty graphic from the outset, so if you're eating, you might want to not for a little while. Or just pause this. Pause it, finish what's in your mouth, take a few deep breaths of fresh air, and come back. Go ahead. Me and Lara can wait. We'll just reminisce about all the times she disobeyed me and I took her back to Croft Manor to throw her head first down the stairs. That's why I'm good at Tomb Raider. Nothing to do with skill. She's terrified of me. I'm not even touching the keyboard right now. This is all Lara. Alright, you good? You ready to hear some shit? Alright. So, one day, Set decided his newest master plan is that he's going to prove that he's better than Horus by just outright fucking him up the arse. Literally, just anally raping him. And to put this into context, this scheme came about after Set had jumped Horus while he was asleep, ripped both of his eyes out and buried them on top of a fucking mountain, so he was starting to get fairly desperate. Hathor, who we talked about in the last video, was the one that gave Horus his eyes back and told Ra, who essentially told the pair of them that he was tired of dealing with their shit, and the next one to play hard bastards with him was going to get Eye of Ra until they shit blood. So, in the name of burying the hatchet, Set invited Horus over to stay at his palace so that they could, I don't know, braid hair, talk about boys and swap back issues of Bunty, I guess. So, while Horus was asleep, like you would ever be retarded enough to fall asleep next to someone that had not 24 hours previously gouged your eyes from their fucking sockets and thrown them up a mountain, while Horus was asleep, Set just went ahead and got himself good and balls deep inside Horus's backside and went to work. But Horus wasn't as stupid as his head made him look, oh no sir, for Horus had positioned himself so that Set merely thought he was pounding the goddamn out of his Hershey highway. In fact, Set's cock was merely between Horus's thighs, which was actually a trick used by Victorian prostitutes when they'd fuck their punters in alleyways. And just before Set blew his load everywhere, Horus reached down and managed to catch it in his hand. Excusing himself to have a long shower, Horus ran off to the nearest river, chucked Set's spooge in there, and then, and this is my favourite part, went to the garden where Set grew his lettuces and started masturbating like a crazed chimpanzee all over the fucking things. A man with the head of a bird cranking his nut wallop out over another man's vegetable patch. Caw, caw. I want that to be your enduring memory of this tale. But actually, according to the papyrus this story comes from, Horus may not have been the one doing the cranking because it explicitly mentions that he did this unspeakable deed with the help of his mother, Isis. Now, it doesn't specify exactly how she helped him, just that she aided him in the act, so that could be anything from distracting Set's royal lettuce guards to physically jerking her son off over Set's dinner. I'll let you pick your favourite. Either way, I'll bet you're hoping that this story has some kind of explanation that ties all this deviancy together and doesn't just resemble brain-damaged My Little Pony fanfiction. Well, provided you're not already vomiting, you're in luck, for the endgame of Set's plan was to prove dominance over Horus by showing the court of the great Ennead that he had essentially made him his bitch. So, Horus and Set go before the court, and Set appeals to them. End this nonsense and give the crown of Egypt to me, for I have done things to Horus's mudflaps of such unspeakable shame that he could never rest them upon a throne again. And Horus says, your words are as false as the professed length of your manhood. Call forth the semen of Set, and we shall see from where it answers. And that's not me trying to be funny, because the court then actually summoned the semen of Set, and when it didn't answer from Horus's arse, but instead faintly from the river where he had thrown it, Set was less than amused. Now then, said Horus, call thee forth my baby gravy, and hearken to from whence it cries. And of course Set was full of Horus's special marinated lettuce, so not only did his jizz answer, it crawled out of Set's ear, climbed on top of his head, and turned into a golden sun disk, which is really the most utterly humiliating ancestor of a modern day teabagging that you could come up with. And the court laughed at Set as he leapt around, angrily trying to grab the sun disk, and I like to imagine that even the speaker of the court was biting his lip, trying not to laugh as someone from the back benches was shouting out, "Ah! Ha ha ha! He fucked him right in the head! Ha ha! What a fucking loser!" "Enough!" shouted Set, wiping Horus's man batter from his earlobe. "Enough of this nonsense! I am the rightful king of Egypt and I demand another contest. Let us race down the Nile in ships of stone. Whoever wins this challenge shall, once and for all, be crowned ruler." Now you would imagine that Horus would play to his obvious advantage and go, "Twat with my jizz in his ear says what?" And Set would go, "What?" And the whole court would just crack up hard while Horus childishly pantomimed fucking Set in the side of the head. but straight away he accepted the challenge, eager to embarrass his rival once more. So, Set goes to the top of the first mountain he can find, smashes it to pieces with his club, and builds himself a giant stone ship with it. He drags it all the way down to the Nile, where he is irritated to see that Horus is already there with his ship, floating on the river's surface. Unbeknownst to Set, however, Horus has made his boat from timber and merely coated the outside in plaster to make it appear as if it was stone. Sneaky little Tweety. Set pushes his boat into the Nile, and of course it sinks like a sack full of Gollum shit, which caused the gathered court to once again piss themselves laughing at this spunk-eared imbecile. Enraged, Set transforms into a hippopotamus, jumps into the river, and starts tearing the shit out of Horus's boat, which finally pisses Horus off enough to try and stab hippo-form Set through the face with his spear. "Enough!" cries the court. "Yes, he turned into a hippo and wrecked your ship, but you shall not murder this poor fool." Which, to be fair, is what Set had been attempting to do for decades by this point. Now, rulership of Egypt eventually went to the courts, who decreed that Horus could have the north of Egypt and Set could have the south. But once Osiris got wind of this in the underworld, he sent a strongly worded letter to the court. Yes, imagine if you can, the fearsome god of the underworld sitting at his desk writing out an indignant letter, angrily shoving it in an envelope, and moodily stomping down to the nearest postbox, before breaking into a light jog once he realised it was 4:45 on a Friday. And if he didn't get a shake on, it wasn't getting to the court by at least Wednesday, first class or no first class. Sent a strongly worded letter asking why Set should be given land at all, considering he murdered Osiris twice for it, and then tried to race his son across the Nile in a stone boat, the fucking brainless dipshit. Like, what do they expect him to do with southern Egypt? Give him a week and I'd have sawn the fucking thing off from the north and tried to escape down the Red Sea before getting stuck in the Gulf of Aden and being overrun by the goddamned Assyrians. Ra didn't take kindly to the tone of the letter and sent one back saying basically, "Well, you're dead and we're not, so if you don't like it, do something, brah." "Oh wait, you can't. You're dead." How's that golden dick working out for you? "Lol, you mad?" To which Osiris sent another letter saying, "Aha, look, I've got a fucking army of demons down here just itching to stretch their legs. You better give my son his goddamn inheritance or I'm turning him loose on the living. And if any of you refuse to do the right thing here, that makes you evildoers. And we all know what happens to motherfuckers on my naughty list." Then he took a selfie with Ammut, the crocodile-headed devourer of souls, with the caption, "Just chilling. For now." Winky face. And posted all that shit back off to Ra. Well, Ra took a look at that, thought, "Yeah, I don't want that damn thing chewing on my salt," and got Keb, the god of earth, to tell Horus the good news. And that's how Horus unified Egypt, by getting his dead dad to threaten it with one of the earliest recorded zombie apocalypses in history. Sorry, I only meant to tell you the story about Horus masturbating into the cabbages, but I figured you'd want to hear what it all came to. Alright, well, that leads us to the remainder of our artifacts that we need. Here's the scarab. That door will open when we pick up the last one. You're supposed to run around the outside, but it's quicker to just hop across the bridge gaps here. Seal of Anubis, there we are. And last one, the Ankh. Marvellous. The Ankh was the Egyptian hieroglyphic symbol for life. Anubis, one of the more famous of the Egyptian gods, which is surprising considering he plays next to no role in the vast majority of their mythology, took on various roles all related to the underworld and the afterlife. In fact, early on, Anubis actually ruled the underworld before Osiris swept in and took that cushy job, but his most prominent positions were as an overseer of the mummification process, an usher of departed souls, and as the operator of the scales during the weighing of the heart ritual that formed the climax to each person's journey through the perilous Egyptian afterlife. Now, you typically begin your journey through this treacherous realm of the dead, or Duats as it was known, armed with various spells and incantations that your friends and family had buried you with. And you would use these to pass a number of gates, guarded by ferocious and terrifying demons, some of which resembled perverse incarnations of the gods themselves, as men with the heads of animals, some instead just having nightmarish cranium replacements as flaming torches or giant rusty knives. Just to give you an idea of what these abominations were famous for, a couple of their names translate roughly to Blood Gorger from the Slaughterhouse and the one who eats his own shit. Again, not me trying to be funny, this is the actual batshit insane mythology readily available for anybody that wants to read up on it. But it does go to show you that the ancient Egyptians came up with Silent Hill a good 3,000 or so years before Konami. In fact, you know they're rebooting God of War with Norse mythology now. I mean, that's fine and all, but for years I've wanted somebody to come up with a game set inside all of the Egyptian mythos, and honestly, I'm really fucking disappointed that they didn't jump ship to another continent for some fresh enemies. Think how great God of War set in Egypt would be. Or Japan, with some of those damn Shinto demons. My word, that'd be a real acid trip of a game. But anyway, once you manage to Harry Potter your way past these monstrosities, you'd enter the Hall of Judgment for the aforementioned weighing of the heart ceremony, where the weight of your heart, which represented your actions and deeds while still alive, would be balanced against the weight of a feather, which represented Mat, the Egyptian concept of morality, harmony, truth, and all things sugary and sweet. If your heart checks out, good news! Your soul gets to go chill with Osiris in his considerably less hellish region of the underworld. If not, oh dear. Oh dear, dear, dear. You silly sausage. Shouldn't have killed that cat, man. Told you not to do it, because now your troubles are just beginning. First your heart gets eaten by Ammit, swallower of the damned. That's that gone now. You're not having that back. This causes you to die a permanent second death and descend into the shittiest part of the underworld, where you have to drink your own piss, eat your own shit, walk upside down all the damn time, and you even get your shadow taken away from you. Then you got the eternal punishments, where you can expect to be chopped into pieces by infernal butchers, burnt with flames spat from the mouths of snakes, cooked to ashes in a cauldron, or maybe just flail around in a lake of your own blood, which the god of the winepress, Shezmu, would squish out of you. Don't kill that cat, man. Don't kill that fucking cat. You'll recognise this part from the last stage, City of Khamoon, which, much like the Lost Valley's reappearance at the end of the Tomb of Qualopec, I've always felt was a really nice piece of level design that gives you a great sense of scale of the ruins you're supposed to be plundering. They'd later take this to maddening extremes in the last revelation, but let's enjoy it for its simple aesthetic charm here and now. There we go. Eye of Horus. One more and we are all done for today, as popping the scarab in will open up the exit to the final level of the Egypt campaign, Sanctuary of the Skion. I do apologise for the occasional wireframing here. It's a pain in the arse getting Tomb Raider to run properly without using a separate standalone graphics engine. And while this one is definitely the best out there, overall it's not without its annoying quirks. There we are then, lovelies. A fairly respectable time for a 100% run on such a huge level. Surprisingly low amount of enemies in this one, a shocking amount of pickups, and your standard 3 secrets. I thank you. Join me next week for more of the same.